Hi, welcome to Sewing with Sandy. I want to talk today about temperature quilts. This time of year, people start thinking about making a temperature quilt for the next year, starting January 1st, and you will keep track of the high for the day, the low for the day, and then each of those days you'll make a block. So over the course of a 365-day year, you'll have 365 patches or blocks, depending on what you decide to do. If you look on Google or if you look on Pinterest and you search temperature quilts, you'll see all kinds of great ideas. You want to pick something that's not so difficult, so time consuming that you won't stick with it, because it is something that you want to keep up with for the entire year. Now, what I've decided to do is I'm going to do Dresden Plate, and I'm going to use this book from Block Lock called Blooming Cogwheels. And I've had it for quite some time. I've never actually used it, so this will be a good chance for me to do that. I'm going to use the instructions on page 41 that show how to do the up and down seams, and you'll see why in a moment. And then the book itself comes with two Block Lock rulers, an A and a B, and this is going to use the A. So if you don't have one of these books and sets of rulers, I'm sure that your local quilt shop would be happy to order those in for you, or you can contact me and I can let you know where I got mine. Okay, so once I decided on my block, then I had to decide fabrics. I decided to go with solids because solids are easy to find, they're inexpensive, and if you run out, you can get more. So I took the temperature range of -15 to 105, subtracted the numbers, and then divided by 3 because I wanted 3-degree increments in my temperature. Now, I've never actually done a temperature quilt with 5-degree increments, but others that have told me that there's not enough of a color change in their quilt. So I decided to go with 3 this year. And so you can see that I've got my coldest cold here, and it's going right up through. This is actually a match for my color chart. They're in that order. I'll keep them in that order all year, and they'll be ready for me to use. So let's look at an example. For my block, I'm gonna do the cold temperature for the day at the bottom of the block and the high temperature for the day at the top. And I'm using 2.5-inch squares and then 2.5 by 7-inch for my tops. And so I'm just gonna piece those together. This is gonna be day 1, day 2. So if this was the first, this would be the second, the third, the fourth, etc. So then I'm gonna seam those together, and then I'll take my ruler. Now, I don't wanna start at the bottom of my ruler, because if I do, once you take these seam allowances out, there's only gonna be a teeny little bit of my cold temperature color. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down here to the bottom, roughly to the line where it's the 2 or maybe 1 3/4. You could do it as low as the 3, whatever you want to do, but I'm choosing to do the bottom of the 2 line. And then I'm lining up my center line with that seam. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut my sides off, and I will have the blade done for day 1 and day 2. Now I can leave them like that and piece them together into my circle, or I can do a more traditional blade shape, and I can sew across the top a 1/4-inch seam, turn it, and come up with my blade. If I want to do something a little more modern and I don't feel like trying to match up this seam all the time, I could actually vary the lengths, the sizes of my cold temperatures so that they make an interesting shape around the center of the block. Now, doing it this way, each quadrant is going to have 8 days. That will make a total of 32 for the circle. As you know, the longest day is 31 days. So if I have 31 blades going around, what am I going to do with the extra blades? So let's take this as an example. At the end of a 31-day month, I'm going to have 1 single blade right here that will not be present. In this case, it would be a half of what I've got pieced here. I'm actually going to add that into my circle as a gray blade and embroider the month onto that blade. Now, when they all get pieced together, again, as is the way with Dresden's, I'm going to have a circle, an open circle in the center, approximately this size, and I'm going to need to do something there. Lots of ideas. I brainstormed with a friend. We came up with some fun things. One thing that you could do would be to embroider the flower for the month. So January flower would be here, February, which happens to be my birth month, so I know the flower is a violet. Could put that there, and that would finish off, applique that down and finish off my circle. Another idea we had for those that don't like to do handwork, you could just find a fabric that has motif on it for that month, like February could be Valentine fabric, and you could put that as your center circle. What I'm thinking of doing is taking all of these beautiful colors, and what I have left over, I may piece together for lattice, for maybe a candy cane binding, a piano keyboarder. There's all kinds of ideas to use up the rest of that fabric if you have leftovers. I started with a 1/2 yard minimum of each color, and I'm sure some of them I will, especially the reds, the darker reds, the purples, I won't use a 1/2 yard. In the middle, who knows? You never know from year to year what's going to happen with the weather. Thank you and have a good day.